For some time now, I feel a bit lost. I feel a bit confused and more so afraid. And I feel like we all go through these sets of emotions. And yet there's one thing that I truly learned, or I truly am starting to understand, is that when we're afraid, when we're lost, we tend to run away from truly feeling that emotion. We tend to run away and escape that heavy conversation, or that daily routine, or that daily matter that we need to face. And one thing that I learned is that, what if it's not about running away? What if it's actually about stopping and allow yourself to be found? There's a story of this young boy named Emmanuel. Now, Emmanuel was young, he was curious, and his plan and his dream was to actually own a farm, was to actually own this beautiful and big farm, to have these sheep, to have these animals, to have these beautiful buildings. And he wanted to put love into these animals and to give them a safe space for them to stay because of how much his father loved him. So that was Emmanuel's dream. As he grew older, he started building on this project, he started building the buildings, getting a safe space. And once his mission was complete, he set himself into the market to go and find his sheep, for his ultimate dream was to be a shepherd. So Emmanuel went into the market and he was looking for some sheep to get. And he saw this beautiful bunch of sheep. And he said to the owner, he said, "Hey, how much for these sheep?" He said, "No, it'll be X amount." And he said, "These are 60 sheep. They are beautiful, healthy, strong, and they are well built." Emmanuel said, "I'll take them." And as Emmanuel is looking around the market, he sees more sheep. And he says, "Hey, how much for these sheep?" And he says, these sheep are actually, they've worn out, they've actually been hurt, they actually not that clean." And he says, "Not a bother, I'll take them." And as Emmanuel is going around the markets, he sees more sheep. And he says, "Excuse me, sir, how much for these sheep?" Then the owner says, "I don't think you would want these sheep. These sheep are actually in bad condition. They have ugly spots on them. They're not really that good looking." And he said, "It's fine, I'll take them." Then as he's walking past, he's seeing more sheep. The owner says, "Well, these sheep, they actually have trauma behind them. I don't think you would want them." Emmanuel says, "I will take them." And then as he's about to leave, he just sees in the corner. And he asked the owner, he says, "What about these 4 sheep?" He says, "Well, these sheep, they actually are not worthy. They're unworthy to be taken care of. They're unworthy to be cleaned out and to actually be bought. That's why they're in the corner." Emmanuel hesitated, but more so in thought, just to actually think about it. And he says, "I'll take them." And as he took them, just as he's about to leave the market, he sees one sheep in the corner. And he says, "Sorry, sir, what about that one in the corner?" He says, "Oh no, I don't think you would want that one. That one is called Unforgiven." Then Emmanuel sat there for a second. He says, "Unforgiven." Then he says, "With everything I'll have, I'll take that one sheep." So Emmanuel takes his hundreds of sheep and he takes them home and he cleans them, he feeds them. This is like paradise for them. And he takes care of them and they hear his voice and they follow him. When everything was beautiful, they were all in comfort, Emmanuel said to them, "This isn't the actual place that I set in stone for you. There's actually a beautiful and better place that I've been building for years. But in order to get there, in order to get to the eternal paradise that we're searching for and that we truly need," he said, "we are going to have to go through some parts that are going to be not the safest, not the easiest. We're going to get cut along the way. We're going to have to go through a lot of dirty puddles. We're going to be going in through some mud and it's going to be tough. We're going to be going through some storms." Yet he said, "But if we endure till the end, it will be completely worth it." So the sheep said, "Fine," because they trust his owner. So the sheep gather together, the shepherd gathers them, and they move in one singular line through the wilderness. As storms start hitting, as They start going through some trouble. As a few get cuts and bruises, Emmanuel takes care of them. And yet, one moment, the sheep, Unforgiven, decides to run off. Unforgiven decides to run off in fear because he's afraid of everything that they're going through. And he runs off into the wilderness by himself. He's scared, he feels alone, he's terrified. And he runs off and he trips and he hurts himself. And he screams out for help and nobody's there. And he cries out and yet he still runs. He runs off not knowing what he should do. So Emmanuel takes his 99 sheep, he puts them in safety, and he goes and searches for that one lost sheep. And as Emmanuel runs off following Unforgiven, he runs off and he says, Unforgiven, Unforgiven, where are you? Where are you? And Unforgiven is just running as he's terrified. Unforgiven, where are you? Where are you? Let me find you. And these words that Emmanuel said actually sparked something in my heart. Emmanuel screamed out and he says, Unforgiven, allow me to forgive you. And at that moment, the sheep, in tears, in heartbreak, in trauma, in pain, instead of running into a space he doesn't know where, filled with the storm, Unforgiven decides to stop. He decides to stop and he cries out for Emmanuel. And Emmanuel comes to him and he says, my son, my daughter, my sheep, I forgive you. And in that moment, I actually think, what a powerful way to demonstrate the act of surrender. Because for so long, there's so many of us, including myself, when troubled times arises, when moments of fear comes and takes place, when temptation comes and whispers in our ear, all we want to do is escape the moment. We want to run away into a so-called freedom. We go into these false comforts. We go and hear different voices. We go and run off into the wilderness with fear and shame. And yet Jesus is saying that all we need to do is to just stop. Stop running, stop trying to find an external source to bring us comfort. All he's asking us to do is to stop and allow him to come to us and allow him to save us. All we need to do is to just stop and surrender it all. And it's a beautiful scripture. John 10 verse 27. It says, my sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. So with the story, it actually brings to a conclusion of sometimes the best efforts and the best things to do is to not run away. Is to actually sit in that short discomfort. Sit in your space of you're afraid, you're in pain, you're filled with trauma, you're filled with doubts, and call out to Jesus, call out to Emmanuel, for he shall come and save you. But that only comes with the act of surrendering. This is why I believe this channel or this movement or this documentary of sharing my life with you, sharing my testimony is so powerful. Is because faith is the grounded foundation of it all. To allow yourself to be found is to allow faith into your heart, but more so is to allow yourself to surrender to faith.